Amanda.
I'm Ben.
We're AutoSave. Welcome to our channel.
Today we're watching Dungeon Meshi Season 1, Episode 12. Last episode was quite a bit ago, but earlier today I rewatched Episode 11 just to make sure that I'm, like, present as much as I can be within the world of Dungeon Meshi. Fuck. We found Fallon-ish. No, maybe. We found her staff. That's for sure. We found a skull. That doesn't have to be her. The hairs don't have to be from her.
Could be another blonde person.
There have been so many instances of healing and resurrection within this dungeon, and aspects being told to us of the soul being forever linked to the body within this dungeon because of its creation and the method used to create the dungeon and what lies within that. But if Fallon is able to be resurrected from this, it would by far be the most grandiose resurrection we've seen, right? Mm-hmm. Nowhere close to anything.
We would be learning something about what you're capable of still. Like, there's still more to learn, obviously, because we're not even to the bottom of the dungeon.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like if there is bringing Fallon back to life here, it would be a big piece of information about the magic to add to the lore.
We've seen so much resurrection that, like, my stomach feels like she's gonna be okay. But we were also given that piece last episode between her and Laios, like with the flashback in the graveyard, but her saying to go on without her. That makes me a little concerned.
Right. I think something that could possibly give me comfort is that episode 11's title was Red Dragon 1, which means even though
there's going to be a second Red Dragon.
That's not where I was going. That since the Red Dragon has already been slain within this Red Dragon 1 episode 11, if that means Red Dragon 2 another episode, it means that storyline is still going on even though the dragon has been slain, which would mean to me that could be us finding out what it was like for Fallon inside the Red Dragon. It could be there's another Red Dragon. It could be how do we save Fallon from the digestion that has happened to her.
Get her resurrected and can, like, recount what had happened within that Red Dragon, it could bridge, like, the reason that it was moving more. Like, it could give us more. She could
have learned some. That's an interesting, because we're wondering what's going on in the dungeon that is causing the orcs to go here and all the monsters to kind of be acting strangely. Something's going on here. The Red Dragon has left its normal territory.
Yeah.
What if Fallon knows the secrets?
True. You ready?
Yes.
Sweet. What if, like, she was just gone in the intro this time around? Like, she just has been completely removed.
They just show a skull.
Or her staff or something. She can't be dead because she needs to hear Shiro's confession.
But also think about the imagery with the hands touching. That's like heaven and earth in imagery.
That's imagery too.
That is also really direct.
It's not unprecedented.
Oh, yes. We need a forensic anthropologist.
Okay. We need to do something here.
Okay.
Can Marcel do it?
Vital.
Oh.
Oh, okay, so you have to do some sort of exchange.
She's going to be the dragon. This is so fucking cool. Okay.
Wait, really?
Oh, great line.
It's probably all about the user.
You have to. It's your only shot. Do you think it'll just be like a 1-for-1, or she'll be part dragon?
What's the difference?
Oh my god. Oh.
The fact that she specializes in forbidden magic, like, what? That is so not what I would think of her.
Okay, as possible. We're giving up eating the red dragon for Fallon. This is so fucked up.
I would be so bad at this.
I'm like,
Well, like finger
just
bones.
trying to be there right now, and it's so fucking grim. Whoa. Marcel knows her shit. Yeah.
But this is forbidden magic.
This is gonna look fucking crazy. Look at her blood-stained feet. Oh! Oh! What the fuck? Where are her eyes?
Oh my god, please.
It's like roughly the shape. Jesus. Oh my god. Oh. What must it be like? Like waking up from a coma?
But she's remembering people.
Yeah, he did.
Now we get to feed her.
And we still have parts of the red dragon left.
The tear lines.
Yeah. It's a scar.
Okay, it's like a scar. Whew.
So you have to put everything into it. Sharing your magic. Wow. Wow. Are we gonna tell her everything?
She did it because she wanted to.
We need to make Fallon a frog suit.
してもマルシルめ。ライオスは知ってたのか？あいつが黒魔術を使うなんて。詳しく聞いたことはないが、勉学のため迷宮を見てみたいということだった。
Because she wants the lunatic mage, what the lunatic mage would do.
Yeah, the whole construction of this dungeon, Dark Elves, has to have come from dark magic. Oh.
Magic isn't good or bad. So study's forbidden to help people wants to make a dungeon to help people.
Where's Senshi? Because of the circle? Oh, shit!
Fallon said she was welling up with magic.
Wow.
Yeah, what
Is it because of the dark magic? Is it because of the dragon?
We use dragon meat instead of like pigs and other things.
Oh. We're making pizzas using the oh my god. Whoa.
Amazing.
Dragon tail soup, onion pizza, roast red dragon.
What's Fallon gonna think? Yeah, of course she would try it.
So like, if they ate Fallon right now, would it taste similar? Because she's comprised of that type of meat?
It's like a giant chicken.
Mmm. Mollusk.
You can't even compare it. Senshi's like, yeah.
Things have changed. Yes!
Yeah!
They're so similar.
This is what she was afraid of. The siblings back together. The siblings. I was about to say, Chilchek noticed the sword fling from his hand.
Aw, he's so shamed.
Kensuke.
Are we gonna eat Kensuke?
So you want to tussle? I wonder if it doesn't like wouldn't like Fallon.
Would you feel guilty eating Kensuke?
Yeah, a little bit.
Some interesting shots.
Yeah, it makes me suspicious.
What the fuck?
I bet Fallon can see ghosts as if they're like real people.
Holy shit. What? More ghost shit from Fallon.
Still itchy.
Healing itchy. Whoa.
Like getting eaten and teleporting everyone out of there.
Oh. The frog suit.
Did they get rid of the circle?
Uh-oh.
What? What? Excuse me?
You have no idea how happy I am. Okay, that was episode 12 of Dungeon Meshi. Episode 6, when we're talking about the living paintings and are in them, is when we last saw this elf. What the fuck?
Yeah.
So, they were working with, or at least revered, the royal family. We had interactions with Prince Delgal, and through that we saw a death, and now we see them now. Is it a sort of like, when we saw them before, was that like a historical seeing them? How like the past had played out and all of this time had passed and now we're seeing them again? Or was it this current version being inside the paintings?
So when we first watched those episodes, my guess of that elf was that it was a person that had gotten trapped within the paintings. But I would say my current feelings on it is that this is the lunatic mage, quote unquote, and whether that was somewhat of that was them within the painting but not the actual body, because there were other people kind of living within that painting, hence living painting. And they are now just, as we know, elves don't really show their age physically as humans do. So I imagine they're just still alive.
Interesting.
But something else I was thinking once the episode ended and we saw that elf, I was like, that elf, when we left the living paintings, seemingly almost maybe blamed Laios for the death of the king, and or thought that Laios was suspicious in this.
Yeah.
And it makes me wonder, like, what if we created this dungeon because we knew that someone 1,000 years from now was gonna come and kill, be the reason the king died, or we'd blame them for the king's death, and we wanted to make sure we met them face to face again.
Yeah.
Like, what if you're setting into motion an environment where you can meet this person again across a lengthy amount of time?
You don't belong to this castle. What are you doing? You were there when the prince was born and also at his wedding. What is your purpose? Are you after the throne?
Which we know that if you get to the bottom of the dungeon, you technically are given, like, the throne. You're given the dungeon.
I'll reduce you to ashes right now. How do we know that you're given the throne when you get to the bottom of the dungeon? Is it, like, conjecture of people who have explored the dungeon? Or is that the Cree or the idea that's been passed down from the creator?
I don't think we've ever been explicitly told who originated this idea.
Yeah.
It seemingly is more legend. It's something that is passed through people speaking to other people traveling in the dungeon.
Because I'm with you that it seems like this elf has either created or is a big part of the dungeon.
Mm-hmm.
But I wouldn't think that they would put a condition that like would allow somebody else to take the throne, because it seems like they revere the king and the throne so much.
I feel like so I think that through Marcille, it's pretty clear to me that this person that we see is the lunatic mage, or at least we should be feeling they are, especially through what we get with Marcille in this episode, which we'll get more into. But I feel like at the moment, especially with that little girl ghost that we see in this episode, I can't help but think that what was done here in the creation of this dungeon wasn't a punishment to the people of the city, but more so like a crazed protection.
I completely agree.
And I feel like we see that little girl, and she's not what we normally see as a ghost, which is this ghoulish blue thing that's sucking the life out of you in this dungeon. She's a little girl, almost pristine in this environment. The door she's coming out of is stone walled.
Yeah.
It's like she's a resident here, is what Fallon says. It's almost like everyone here is in this afterlife almost barrier between the worlds of life, the living and the ghosts.
I wonder if this elf at the end can see them in that way, or that is an interesting plot point that we see later in interacting with this elf, them seeing how Fallon could communicate with these people or these spirits or ghosts in a way that even she can't. Right. Or he can't.
Imagine creating this safety for everyone, but then you're still left out of it.
Yeah.
Which, if you think about that, in terms of the living paintings, if you just think about that theory, you create this circumstance, but now you cannot live amongst the people that you loved and cherished. You'd go into the living paintings purposefully so that you could be around them again.
Yes, definitely. It didn't... That's
just like if you were to go with that idea and the sentimentality of it.
Yeah, I completely agree. And like if you have that much respect and like you put them on that level of a pedestal, that is something that you would want to do. When seeing like the poisoning happen, it didn't seem like it was. It didn't seem like they were recounting the time when it happened, but it seemed like that was an actual historical like moment in history of when it did happen. Then when we're interacting with Laios, it probably could be either, but I think it was probably another historical like snapshot of history. But if this person did create the dungeon or is in charge of the dungeon, I would imagine that they wouldn't want... Would you want people? You wouldn't want anyone in the dungeon in the first place. No. Would you see them being in the paintings as like desecration? If so, why would you make them in the first?
You're not supposed to be here.
Yeah. So like, let's say you make the paintings the way that they are so that you're able to re-experience it, and then other people abuse it, quote unquote, for like food. Like, okay, I'm gonna go in there. Like, that's disrespect. Do we know that Laios was in there? Like, does this elf, upon meeting Laios, are we like, I remember you from the painting, or are they like, I know you've done this?
Well, that's the major question. Is that the elf having gone into the living painting, or is that another variant of the elf? Is that just a piece of that elf's life being trapped within that painting as all of the other people that are within that painting? And there would be a disconnect in terms of what the elf in the painting knows and what the elf in real life knows.
But also, if this elf was the one to create these things, I would not put it outside the realm of possibility for them to be aware of when their creations are being interacted with.
Right.
Like, it's like an alarm system almost. Like, do you get a feeling when somebody enters one of your paintings that you've created?
What type of person would create a dungeon that traps the souls in so that people can be resurrected. Someone who doesn't want anyone in their life to die ever again.
Yeah.
And wants it to always be possible to just keep them alive and have immortality. Not selfishly, but like what we see with Marcel, the reason she uses forbidden magic here, black magic here, yes, for a selfish reason, because it's someone that she loves, that she wants to bring back, but it's to bring back someone's life that she cares about and others care about.
What's the reaction to seeing this dark magic here? Like, is it like, okay, we're taking off of our hood. Are we looking at it with like surprise, disdain, disgust, wonderment? Like, is this source of magic something that this elf doesn't even know that could offer them up something? Like, what is this elf's goal at the moment?
So if we were still going with the sentimentality factor of the love of the king that died from the poisoning, you could see a reaction to this circle being possibly, you would have some sort of resentment toward who was able to resurrect with this, because you didn't. You weren't able to at the time. You didn't know about it at the time. Maybe you didn't dabble in things that were forbidden back then, and now you wish you had.
Yeah, interesting.
Could
Or
be some regret there.
Or because of after the death of somebody that this person loved, there was like an immediacy moving of the body or tampering that made the soul, if the spell had been placed, like not as attached.
Well, the death happened before the creation of the dungeon.
Yeah.
That's a interesting thing to bring up, of like, if we create a dungeon that has this property of the soul being trapped here, but this dungeon was created after the death of this king, there would seemingly be no way to bring that life back because the soul would be gone. But what if that elf, the lunatic mage, what if they have still kept the remains?
Yeah.
What if they're trying to achieve all these years a way to bring the soul back to the body, and they still have the body of the person that they love, and now they see that someone has been able to do it with this black magic, and what if that then draws their attention of wanting to utilize Marcel in that way?
Yeah. Like, if you found somebody who's more powerful than you, or potentially, does that mean that they could do something that you can't, that you need done or want done?
Or would Fallon be the focus that you would want?
So,
because I think we should talk about
yeah,
what Fallon seemingly can do, what is going on with her body and her magic.
It seems like there's magic welling up inside of her in a way. Granted, we didn't see much of her before she died, but that's vastly different.
She was strong then.
We get Chilchuck saying, like, oh, I wish we had this magic when we were fighting the Red Dragon in the first place. Is that strictly because of being rebuilt and reborn through flesh of a dragon?
So,
okay.
Well, wanting Fallon,
question.
That's just okay.
If this mage created the dungeon, the lunatic mage, and this is the lunatic mage, whether it created or controlled the dragon, if it put mana or magic into that, and then that was used to be turned into Fallon, would Fallon gain some of that like magic prowess or energy that was used by that lunatic mage in the first place?
It's definitely a factor of, this is the first time that a monster has been used, and the monsters, they live and feed in this ecosystem. Like, this is theirs. When we were talking about resurrecting people before, we were using animals from above ground. We were not using dungeon bred and evolved monsters.
Yeah.
And I think that obviously, like, Fallon already could see ghosts, but I do wonder if when we see that little girl, are we seeing, like, yeah, Fallon could see ghosts before, but is this, she's seeing something within a magic barrier? Like, there's something here within the dungeon itself that she can now see beyond this veil.
It's interesting because, like, we know elves have a longer lifespan than humans. And presumably all of the humans that this elf would have loved would typically have long been dead.
Mm-hmm.
Like, disregarding the spell attached to the dungeon, is there anybody feasibly left alive in this elf's life?
Well, if you could consistently bring people back to life if you have their souls trapped here, then you basically
is
could
it immortality?
Right.
Hmm.
But I also don't feel like this, just in guessing, I don't feel like this elf has people around them. They seem like a lone wolf. They seem like they really are isolated and alone and without that companionship that they previously had.
They might hate our group, but I feel like they'd hate the elves on their way here more. You know what I mean?
Ooh, okay. Because the elves want secrets too.
Yeah.
Our group doesn't really want anything other than they wanted to bring Fallon back to life, and now they are going to return to the surface and, you know, figure out how to pay for Chilchuck's services.
I wonder, like, what this elf's perception of one Laios, like, Senshi would be like, you know?
Mm-hmm. I feel like when I think about the people that make this dungeon their home, whether they are people or they are monster humans, demi-humans like the orcs, or they are Senshi, this lunatic mage, it seems like each of the characters we've been introduced to that are of that sort have some sort of respect, or at least grow to have some sort of respect for Laios. They like him, or they think, like, if someone should be the king of the dungeon, it should be you.
Yeah. Upon, like, the explanation that we're getting from Marcial's so fucking cool. When she's talking about reviving, and Chilchuck's like, that's not your specialty, is it? You typically need, like, more than 2 times the caloric amount of flesh. By the time that we bring it down here, it would rot. And Marcial's like, we have an abundance of fresh blood and flesh right here. It's so interesting. I've been silent about it because I didn't want to alarm you. But I specialize in the study of ancient magic that's forbidden now. I think that using that is the only way we can bring her back.
It's ancient magic. That means it's going to be incredibly recognizable to the mage that we see at the end. Like, this circle might not be recognizable to your average mage unless they studied this.
Yeah.
And also, how did Marcial get the privilege of studying it? Is it because she's been alive for longer that it became forbidden after, and she learned it before it became forbidden?
That's a good question.
A human mage coming across it would have no idea because they weren't allowed to study it.
There's no good or evil in magic. I love that line.
I like that. There's no good or evil in magic. And I think what that does is it definitely lends to Marcial in this episode being why I theorize that the mage that we see at the end is the lunatic mage. Because we know from Fallon and Marcial's past that Marcial wants to create a dungeon that benefits the people. She wants to use forbidden magic to benefit people. And it could be in stark contrast to the elf that we see, and or it could be kind of, where is the line here between, you know, like, where's the line here of what is selfish and what is to benefit the people, or what is evil and what is good, and is that just subjective? And then we also get the line of, like, a dark elf in this. And
Marcial's reaction to being called a dark elf. There's something, like, it's, like, so fucked up. Like, because when I see people, like, messing with, like, bones and, like, trying to put skeletons back together, like, the way that they approached it was so much like how they've approached recipes for cooking, that it had this, like, fucked up, morbid, dark, comedic element to it, that I was, like, thinking of, like, serial killers. Like, it was so fucked up, and like, I love it.
They went past that. They literally called themselves out for it, with Laios being like, this is a beautiful artwork.
Yeah.
And then like, yeah.
It's interesting because you wonder if just the birth of this dungeon and the subsequent spell attached to it has created, like, a more fucked up, like, culture because of their approach now to death and what it means and the, like, lack thereof, you know?
Mm-hmm. I mean, we're not only do we have kind of now a warped sense of life and death and how are you actually dead? Could you be brought to life within this dungeon? But there's also a monopoly on it, and there's now a market for it. There are people that come down, and then you have to pay to resurrect your loved ones.
I loved Fallon and Laios' moments this episode of, like, reuniting. It felt way more emotional than I thought it would, because I haven't had that much of time with a character like Fallon. But everything felt so genuine and sweet, and I loved her reaction to them eating monsters in the dungeon. And
I knew she was gonna think that it was fascinating. And then she asked if we ate the fish man, and Laios was like, it took me back to that moment. His expression was priceless there. So I think that still the most fascinating thing that, like, obviously bringing Fallon back and being able to is the highlight of this episode, on surface especially. But I would say that something that feels maybe more rewarding to the viewer in terms of the lore for this episode is all I could think of, and we even brought up the golems in this episode, but I thought about it 10 minutes before the golems were directly brought up in terms of eating vegetables from a golem vegetable garden. All I can think of was we sent Marcial out of the room when we were talking about how Senshi was utilizing the golems, because this was not allowed to be done. This was taboo. This was forbidden. And we thought that Marcial was too much of this goody two-shoes to be okay with it. And then here in this episode, that's how rewarding this feels to me. That we find out that she specializes in forbidden black magic.
Yeah. Do you think that it is just a coincidence that the elf is showing up at the end of the episode, or do you think it's because a direct, like, cause and effect of the dragon being killed and this ancient magic being used? That's what it feels like more to me. Like,
it's that, or the monsters are moving up because the elf is moving up.
I like that. I also like one of my dragons died. That's weird as fuck. I'm gonna go see what happened. You know,
the dragons are supposed to be eating people, not the other way around.
Yeah.
Like, I think right now I'm gonna go with the elf is moving up.
Okay.
And is currently acting. And that is why things are going weird and monsters are moving territories. I almost feel like maybe the lunatic mage would be intimidating to the monsters because they're at the top of the ecosystem, right?
But I think the lunatic mage would have control of the monsters.
But they came after. They live within this ecosystem that has been created.
But, okay, when I think of the lunatic mage, I think, and a dungeon, I'm thinking that they're actively in control of it. I'm thinking that they are protective of the throne and the title of king. Therefore, what's the best way to fuck with people so they can't get down here? Mix that shit up. Like, RNG the shit out of it.
Indirectly, maybe. I don't think they'd have, like, mind control or direct orders. They could cause some sort of, like, say you have an animal and you want them to go to a different place. You'd get some sort of pheromone that would draw them to that location, or you'd move their food source somehow to a different location.
It's just, there's so many possibilities when you, like, talk about the realm of magic, because there's so many, like, different instances and rules depending on the universe, you know, on what possibilities lie.
I mean, the possibilities have already opened up exponentially about what the afterlife really can be here, or the afterlife, ghosts, resurrection, things that we previously thought were kind of established that we understood. Now we find out there's unprecedented cases of certain things being able to happen that we didn't think previously could happen. And now I'm like, well, now there's ancient magic that's forbidden. What can that do?
Yeah.
You know?
It feels like I thought they did such a perfect job at pivoting the end of one story into what's about to happen next. I was so worried that, like, okay, we've done it. We found Fallon. We've resurrected her. What now? They have done such a great job at, like, in the same episode that she's brought back, I have, like, a complete world ahead of me that I'm so excited for possibilities going forward. Like, it's flawless.
So she's brought back and we're going to return to the surface. We know that...
Potentially, we're going to try to.
We're going to try to. Well, let's just say that's the current goal. We are now, I think, so entangled in the dungeon. We are entangled from Fallon now that we believe there's some sort of tie, even more so to her. Like, I think you would feel a spiritual tie to the dungeon if your soul had been separated from your body in death and then brought back here within this dungeon. I think you would feel some sort of spiritual tie. But I believe Fallon's tie is a lot stronger than just that. So leaving the dungeon with that involved, Laios being kind of looked for by the group of Kabru, for these people keep stealing from us and then having a meal. Now we have this elf that has kind of called attention to the circle. We have other things. Senshi's not going to want to leave. Other things are happening that are going to maybe keep us here or make us come back.
Mm-hmm. All right, that's all I have you.
Yep.
Thank you guys for watching this video. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and we hope to see you next time.